On this episode of That One Movie Podcast, we're going to take a look at The Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
The Ballad. Did I say a ballad?
Yeah, you said a ballad.
Oh, sorry. The Ballad. The one and only Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Don't worry, we will talk spoilers, and we will warn you before we do so no spoilers until you're ready for them. We're also going to talk about the first episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Boy, there is a lot of subtitles to remember today.
Yes.
But before that, we're going to talk some news from this week in the world of entertainment. What are some of our stories this week, Holden?
So we're going to talk about some trailers from Madam Web, Garfield, and Rebel Moon, as well as some Fantastic Four news, and we'll talk about another Star Wars movie that has bitten the dust, Jimmy.
Okay, sweet. I'm Lucky Flickerman. Just kidding. I'm Jimmy Eathy.
I'm Holden Sutter.
And it's time for Tom.
Tom. That One Movie Podcast.
Tom.
All right, Jimmy. Before we talk Hunger Games, let's do the Toms.
Let's do the Toms.
The Toms. Toms is the rapid fire segment in which we rate the news of the week in the world of entertainment on a scale of three famous Toms: Brokaw, Bombadil, and Bergeron. Brokaw's the highest, Bombadil's the lowest, and Bergeron somewhere in between.
I almost put up Bergeron for Brokaw.
That would have been embarrassing.
That would have been an embarrassment, Holden. On this 226th episode of the show,
yes,
the quality must remain as high as ever.
Yes,
it's a high bar.
Not very high.
It's about as high as the level of quality coming out of the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel.
Indeed. And speaking of which, Jimmy, we have the first trailer for Madam Web, which is the new Sony Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man movie.
Yes, so far.
Yes. So obviously it's same universe as the Venom movies and Morbius, and also the upcoming Kraven the Hunter movie. Mm-hmm. Although this one's coming out in like February. So this one's coming out very soon.
Yeah.
What'd you think of this trailer, Jimmy?
I don't have many thoughts. She can see the future. They're all going to be Spider Women. Great. Who wants this version?
I think it looks pretty bad. I know it's a trailer. There's this one scene in the trailer that is like edited very poorly, but it also looks like that's just how it could be in the movie, but we'll wait and see about that. There's also a line in the trailer that's getting memed around, which is he was in the Amazon with my mother when she was researching spiders right before she died. That mouthful of a weird line is getting memed around. It's pretty funny.
The girl from White Lotus season 1, the daughter's in it.
Euphoria, yeah, Sydney Sweeney. She's a good actress, but this doesn't look good. Looks like there's going to be 3 Spider Women, which they are all different, like named spider people in the comics. So I don't know. Madam Web is typically a blind, old, paralyzed woman, and Dakota Johnson is none of those things in this trailer. Yeah. So maybe she'll be at least one of those things by the end of the movie.
It should have been Raven Simone, and every time she saw the future, she'd go...
I never watched that.
That's a Raven.
No.
Well,
went over my head, but I at least understood that's what you were talking about.
That's a very niche reference.
Yes.
For all those That's So Raven fans out there, such as myself.
Yeah.
She basically is That's So Raven, though. She just sees a little bit into the future.
Yeah, and then has a little reaction to it. The villain of this, I was looking into it. He's like a character in the comics I think he's usually actually like an ally to Spider-Man, so I don't really know what that's all about.
Are there any good guys named Ezekiel? Ezekiel seems like always like some sort of cult leader
That's
name.
true, yeah. That is typically how it goes. I don't know a single person named Ezekiel, so I guess...
Neither do I.
No frame of reference there. This trailer for me, though, I'm going to give it a Bombadil. Just doesn't look very good.
Yep, there you go.
Fair enough.
I don't think it looks astonishingly bad from the trailer.
Yeah, it's probably not as straight up bad as the Morbius trailer.
Like I remember wow, this movie is going to be a train wreck.
Then again, Morbius, we also had to suffer with that trailer for like a year and a half.
Some sort of bat radar.
Yeah. So, anyway, next trailer, Jimmy, is for the Garfield movie, the new animated Garfield film. with Chris Pratt as Garfield.
You had me in the first half with the cute little Garfield scene, and then it fell apart from there for me. As soon as it was like, it's a me, a Mario, Chris Pratt.
Eat my lasagna. Yeah, it's...
and that is when I adopted John. You kind of look like John in this trailer a little bit, Holman.
Really?
You and John kind of look alike.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
A cartoon.
Yeah. I look like a cartoon. Clean just like 30-something man.
Well, yeah, I think so.
All right.
Well, he's not 30-something in the beginning.
That's true. He's younger in that. But yeah, it's this weird trend with a lot of these like Scoob had really cute Scooby at the beginning. There's a lot of these animated movies where like it's a just random person, and then the beginning is just like a smaller version of this character with big eyes.
I could not tell you anything about Scoob.
Yeah, the only thing I remember is cute Scoob because
I don't remember that at all. All I remember is it turned into like a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe.
I do remember that.
And I don't even remember what that was even like. I don't remember the mystery at all. I don't remember anything they do.
They fight the guy from Wacky Racers.
I could not tell you anything about that movie, Scoob, and I continually forget that exists. That came out right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, it was like when nothing else was coming out.
That was like nothing else came out, and I still don't even remember it.
But anyway, this trailer, it looks fine. I think
Sam Jackson is
the dad. Yeah, big Garfield, I guess. The style is pretty good. I think
so.
Yeah, it carries over like just enough from like how the people look in the comics and the way the kind of their actions look on paper. But yeah, I don't know. The story, we don't know much about it. It looks fairly like simple, generic. But
what studio is this?
It's like, I can't remember. It's some established studio, but I think it's their like first animated movie. But the guy who's directing it directed worked on like Little Mermaid. I can't remember. He directed Emperor's New Groove. So he's like an established animation guy.
Columbia Pictures.
Okay. And yeah, whatever is under Columbia.
And Elcon Entertainment in the latter's first animated film.
Yes. So yeah, I don't know. Animation wise looks pretty good. Other than that, I don't know. Chris Pratt's honestly, I don't hate his Garfield voice. It's mostly just his voice, but it kind of works for me. As long as you're not kind of hung up on like the classic voice of his that was established in the 80s. I don't know. You have any thoughts on
as long as you're not a big Garfield snob.
Yeah, big Garfield snob. If you prefer the Bill Murray Garfield movies.
Yeah. I think I said this, but I'm Bergeron. I don't really care about this movie. We're not going to see this movie. Who are we kidding, Holden? You might
really
see this.
Good?
This is not going to be really good. It'll be fine. Kids will enjoy it. My nephew will like it, I bet.
Yeah. I'll give it a Bergeron too. Looks fine. It's probably whatever. But then the final trailer is the new trailer for Rebel Moon Part 1, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. A Child of Fire.
Is that what it's called?
I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
I believe so. Another subtitle.
Yes. What'd you think of this one?
I made that video on it during the summer, so I've known the story for a long time now. So I'm like, yeah, it's still the same story. They're coming and they're gonna take everything from us, and they're the big bad guys, and we gotta put the band together and stop them. So let's put the band together and stop them.
So what's I can't remember. I can't remember the story from it. What's the deal with Sofia Boutella's character? Is she just like
Sophia? She's the main girl. So they're like, she I think is left. If I remember, I made this video in like July. Yeah. So she left the I can't remember what it's the Empire. Yeah, sure, I can't remember what they call it. She left the Empire, and she's on the Rebel Moon, and she's like a farmer or whatever. And then they're coming back. Oh no, maybe her town was destroyed or something.
Okay,
I get. There's so many different characters. I'm getting them mixed up. But I think her village was like destroyed, and she's like, they're gonna wipe you all out. You guys don't understand. You can't just like appease them. You need to fight back. Mm-hmm. I think it's maybe her story, if I remember correctly. Now that I butchered that, just go back and watch my Zack Snyder Rebel Moon probably video. I covered all of it. I added some humorous bits, so hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah. It looks like a lot, which is honestly like this trailer is,
I think it's a 2-part movie.
Yeah. This trailer, I believe, is longer than the previous one and probably shows more, but they've like merged together in my head because it's just a lot of special effects shots of actors you kind of know, like jumping around.
I think this movie, it's going to come down to, is the world interesting enough and different enough from other things that have been established?
Yeah.
Does the band that gets together have chemistry? And then how is the action? And I think like those are the 3 things that are going to make or break this movie. And I do think Zack Snyder's overall a good director. I think he does a really good job executing his vision. I just don't know if his vision is always
the best,
like flawless.
Yeah.
He takes big swings, which is why I appreciate him. Like this movie is going to be worth talking about. Like I will be. I've never been like bored by his movies. I find them like entertaining, even if they're not exceptional. And like I said, he tries things. He really goes for it. So I'm excited from that regard. And this is a movie I have been anticipating. I don't necessarily have like a ton of confidence in it necessarily.
Sure, yeah.
But I am very intrigued of like this massive Netflix 2-part just epic. And seeing if it will succeed or not. Because I'm intrigued. So it's a Brokaw for me. Just because it's cool that we're getting it. That they are like, you know what, you're an established director. You have a very committed fan base, a small fan base of very, very committed people. Here you go for it. Here with your passion project.
Swing. Yeah. And I believe this movie, he said there's going to be an R-rated cut previously. And I think
there's later on. Then like a black and white one
but I was seeing that like I don't remember exactly where you said this, but something like it's gonna be like an hour longer, like overall, the R-rated cut. I don't know. It's a Bergeron for me. Looks whatever. Yeah, I'm a Zack Snyder hater.
Yeah, he is. Holden's been a Zack Snyder hater. You just gotta watch 300.
I do need to watch that.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change me.
I need to rewatch it.
I think his Watchmen movie is pretty good. Considering it's a movie that's, adapting that whole comic. But
there we go. Enough trailers, I say, Holden.
Yeah, well, good, because we're done with trailers. So.
Sweet, that worked out really well.
Yeah, good declaration there. So first up on other news, Jimmy, Fantastic Four casting. This is not confirmed, but Pedro Pascal is apparently in talks to play Mr. Fantastic.
He's just getting all of his Infinity Stones.
He is.
Game of Thrones, Star Wars, The Last of Us, and now the
Marvel.
MCU. What does he have next? DC?
Yeah, he'll just do something in DC as well. Oh, wait, no, he was in DC.
Oh, yeah, he was in Wonder Woman. He's just there. He's got them all. Yeah.
Forgot about that movie.
It's like, it feels like he's been in something. Well, you don't hit all the, you don't score every shot you take.
They're not all hits.
The 99 floors of fright or whatever. They can't all be winners. The David S.
the David S. Pumpkins thing. So I don't know. There's been kind of a mixed reaction to this, and obviously this once again not confirming or anything. I like Pedro Pascal, so I think if Marvel thinks he's right for this, I think that's probably good. I don't really have any like love particularly for the Fantastic Four.
I don't either. I we grew up with those 2 movies, but I couldn't tell you anything that's happened in them.
Yeah, I had like this collection of like the first 15 like Fantastic Four comics from the 60s or whatever when I was growing up. So I have like that knowledge plus like whatever like random cartoons they've popped up in. But other than that, it's just kind of like, they're a team of heroes and they've got a nice dynamic, cool powers. I don't know. It's fine. I'm sure he would be a good pick. I like him.
He's older, which is whatever. Like, he's too old for this. But Pedro Pascal's got tons of charisma. I think he actually, at this point, is gonna draw people in that normally maybe not wouldn't be as interested. Like he's got a pull to him.
He does. He's
especially if he's one of the lead roles.
Name, so
he's not like gonna Tom Cruise level,
sure.
but he's closer to that. I just like I'm not sure that like Fantastic Four to people who really enjoy comics is like such a big deal and like sacred. And I just don't necessarily think the general public shares that.
Yeah.
And I'm a little afraid that Disney and Marvel are just like so prepared to like pin the future of the MCU on the Fantastic Four that they better get this right.
Yeah, this casting better be good.
Because, I mean, look, nobody cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy before that movie came out, and now that's one of the most successful superhero franchises ever.
They are probably more popular than Fantastic Four, just overall.
Oh, now.
Yeah,
certainly now, yeah. So, they took James Gunn took absolutely nothing and made it into something. Can they do that at Marvel? Who's doing the Fantastic Four movie? Who's directing that? I think the director is currently the guy who did WandaVision. He also directed the first 2 episodes of the Monarch show. I just realized. But he did some episodes of Game of Thrones and stuff. I think he's a decent director, but he's not like a James Gunn type. Matt Shakman?
Yeah, Matt Shakman.
Matt Shakman. That's a fun name to say. Matt Shakman, what have you done? Star Trek 4?
He was attached to Star Trek. It's like showing nothing there.
Wow.
What the heck?
Boy, not much.
He did do...
mostly it's shows.
He's mostly shows.
The Great, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Fargo, and Game of Thrones. Oh, what did he direct in Game of Thrones? I'll have to look into that.
And he did all of WandaVision.
WandaVision was pretty good, in my opinion.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, where's that?
Game of Thrones. Spoils of War. That was a good episode. And Eastwatch, which was bad, which was okay. I don't remember that episode.
And he also did an episode of The Boys, looks like.
The Boys.
In Succession. So yeah, he gets around in the...
Cherry, is that season 1? No, second episode of the first. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so he gets around in the TV space.
Yeah, he's pretty good with TV. Mm-hmm. Can he do it with the Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
We'll see. Pedro Pascal, I'll give him a Broca.
Yeah, I'll give it a Broca as well. Honestly, I think he's just a good actor, so I'm excited for him. And then the other thing with Fantastic Four is that apparently Javier Bardem is the top pick to play Galactus.
I don't even know anything about Galactus, Holden. I don't know anything about it.
Galactus, Galactus he's a big purple guy who eats planets.
He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Okay.
He's got a very silly design to him.
He's not the one in charge of the mortal or the...
No.
Who is the guy
in charge of the Eternals?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think Galactus might be a Celestial. So yeah, he might be part of that group.
Marvel's Eternals writer teases Galactus in sequel. He looks like it. Boy.
Yeah, so the thing with Galactus is he's typically like he is a Fantastic Four villain, like primarily, but he's also like a huge, like powerful villain that I'm kind of surprised they do in like the first Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Javier, and he's the guy, the Silver Surfer is his little crony. So he was in the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie, but he was a giant cloud.
I am a giant cloud. Don't put me in your pocket.
I'll give Javier Bardem Bergeron because whatever, Galactus.
I'll give him a Broca. Why not?
Sure. Now, Jimmy, more Marvel news. Avengers Kang Dynasty, or is that what it's going to be?
Avengers Now Doctor Doom.
And Avengers Doom Dynasty. Anyway, Destin Daniel Cretton, who was the director, has apparently stepped down. He was director of Shang-Chi.
Uh-huh.
But this is also amidst rumors that the next Avengers is stepping away from Kang. Apparently, Cretton is still working with Marvel on the Wonder Man TV series, which apparently is still a thing, and Shang-Chi 2. But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of changes happening for this new Avengers movie.
I, for one, was looking forward to the Kang Dynasty, so I'm going Bombadil on that one.
I mean, we're both of the opinion that they should just recast him. Just do it. Like, I think there's a lot you could do with Kang, and if you want to get rid of Jonathan Majors, just recast him. You don't need to pivot to a villain that no one cares about.
Well, I was listening to the new episode of The Weekly Planet. If you, Holden, I know you also listen
Yeah.
Were you listening to their new episode?
I haven't listened to the new one.
All right, well, on their famous segment, Hot Scoop or Shot of Poop, they said someone reached out to them who had worked on Jonathan Majors on that Devotion, whatever the fighter pilot movie when he landed the Kang role. And there was they said that there was a stipulation in his contract where no one else could portray Kang in like a multiverse situation.
Oh.
So that would explain why they couldn't do that. But then they also talk about how, well, if that's the case, when they have like a clause in the contract of like, if you do something that gets you in trouble, maybe it had to be like, you had to be indicted with certain charge, or you had to like actually get charged, like arrested for certain things, or I don't know, but it's a mess. And that's just a bummer because I don't know. It just kind of deflates all the stuff Loki set up really well. Kang seemed like a really cool villain that I was really excited for. It seems like it has nulled all the multiverse stuff that has been set up over the past few years.
Yeah, which I mean, I know people are getting tired of multiverse stuff, but regardless of that, like Marvel has clearly been like building up some stuff, no matter how messy it may be. And now they're just going to have to backpedal and probably go in a completely different direction. It's going to be bizarre.
Well, it's going to feel like, the Rise of Skywalker, where they're like, oh, crap. I'm going to just figure this out. Mm-hmm. And J.J. Abrams, figure it out.
Well, it's
Kevin Feige, figure it out.
And I've always, maybe naively been under the hopes that maybe like what all of Phase 4 and 5 has been building to could maybe be worth it in the end, considering how like iffy it's been along the way. But now it's like, it feels like all of this is going to be so wasted.
Yeah, well, it's like they were building the Kang Dynasty and now it's just not happening. So it's like, and then again, it's like, okay, now I'm just less interested than I was before. Ant-Man, what a waste of time at this point. Oh my gosh.
That movie was completely pointless if they do that.
Just negates everything of the last couple of years. And my hype just is plummeting for the MCU. Like, now you're just going to introduce this villain out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Well, we'll put him in a post-credit scene of Deadpool 3, and well, I don't cover it.
we'll explain it there.
Yeah.
I feel like they are going to be putting a lot on Deadpool 3, which is very strange.
Deadpool 3 is it's going to do well. People are going to say, oh my gosh, MCU is back, boy. Just when you think they were down and out.
As it happens with every other Marvel project.
Yeah. Just when you thought they were down and out, Deadpool 3 comes back and it's so good and everybody loves it. And that's assuming it's good.
Yeah.
What if they just miss? Then they are
the
screwed.
Free Guy director.
They are screwed if they miss. It's almost like Indiana Jones 5 situation to me. It's like, oh, this is gonna be good. They have James Mangold. They have this. It's the odd number movie. They have an actual idea. They're gonna do well, and it was okay. And then it bombed, and that franchise is dead now. Like there's no revival of that.
No,
it's done. And now the MCU, boy, do they need that Deadpool 3 movie to be good. Because if it is good, it will be very successful, I think. I think it'll be like a $700 million movie.
At least, yeah, probably.
And it's the only MCU movie next year?
Yeah, currently.
And yeah, you have the Wolverine crowd of like the classic Wolverine and the Deadpool crowd. Yeah. Deadpool 1 made $1 billion, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think both of them were like around 800 million or something.
I think it's going to do well.
Yeah, I think it'll do well. And I think having that year of just Deadpool's the only one will be nice too.
Yeah. I just love Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, big Ryan Reynolds fan here. I like him as Deadpool.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a long tangent to say Avengers Kang Dynasty don't like what they're what's going on there.
Yeah, Bombadil. Again,
they had a pretty good director on it, and now they're also changing. So whatever.
Yeah, so we don't know who the director is now?
No.
That's great.
Yeah. So we don't probably know anything about this movie right now.
F it. Have Ryan Johnson do it.
Yeah, why not? Next up, Jimmy. Apparently, Frozen 4 is being made alongside Frozen 3. Bob Iger said that Jennifer Lee, who wrote 1 and 2, is now working on 2 Frozen movies.
Wow.
So, you excited for a Frozen 4?
Frozen 4, Holden. That's what they call the final 4 of the NCAA hockey tournament.
Have you ever heard
of the Final Four college basketball? Final Four. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
It's my semi-regular segment. What does Holden know about general sports knowledge? Final Four. So then the hockey equivalent, they call it Frozen Four.
That's kind of stupid, but I guess it makes sense.
So Frozen Four. I hope it's just a bunch of hockey.
That'd probably be better.
You know what? I liked the first one.
Yeah.
So
that's about all we can say.
You should listen to our Frozen 2 review. I'm at a Bergeron.
Yeah, I'll give it a Bergeron too. I feel like if we average out my feelings for the first and second movie, you get about a very average thought of the series. So
you really like the first one that much?
Maybe not. Maybe it's slightly below average.
That's Holden, that's the answer. What movie do we have like the most division on? Because we thought of Free Guy right away and we couldn't think of another one. Frozen 2 is the other one where we're just
Frozen 2 is
this movie sucks, and I don't get why people like this.
I kind of want to go rewatch it and see if it is as bad as I remember. It probably is.
Probably not. I don't know.
Whatever.
Well, we got 2 opportunities with these sequels coming out.
Exactly. Could do a little rewatch or whatever.
Did 2 make more than 1? Is 2 the highest grossing animated movie ever, or did Mario
I think Mario surpassed it.
Okay, but it was that?
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that was my thought. I was like, God, it surpassed
I would take Mario over Frozen 2, from what I remember.
Jimmy, next up, Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie is no longer happening.
Yeah, well, if you were listening, Holden, Kathleen Kennedy already said that at Star Wars Celebration or one of those Star Wars things. She's like, it was never actually ever happening. She said that was like some rumor that just gained traction, and it was never. We never even talked to Kevin Feige.
Look, okay, there's so many of these Star Wars movies that come and go. We've talked about them a lot. I can't get straight what all we talk about. So if there's one I bring up more than once,
was freaking Rogue Squadron supposed to come out this year?
Yeah,
I think it was. Wasn't it?
That was 2023.
Yeah,
ripping.
Yikes. A movie that was never gonna come out is not coming out. I don't care.
Bergeron.
When are we getting a Star Wars movie? 2025 or something?
Apparently Taika Waititi's is still happening. So is his the next one?
Next Goal Wins is a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. Next Goal Wins a Star Wars story.
He just takes a lightsaber out and just starts cutting people in half in the middle of the movie.
That'd be pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Jimmy, Disney Plus and Hulu are officially combining.
Oh, wow.
Apparently a full launch.
I can't wait for it to be even more expensive.
Yeah, right. A full launch is due out by the end of March of next year. So, yeah.
Makes sense. I'm assuming it's going into Disney Plus.
Probably. That would make sense to me. That they wouldn't get rid of the Disney branding.
Hulu, more like good boy.
What?
Like that
didn't make sense.
Good boy.
Okay, I get
work with the old one. God. At least you could understand the joke. You didn't even get the joke. No, I'm not saying it's a good joke, but you didn't at least even comprehend what I was going for.
It was so highbrow. It like went over my
head.
head.
That's what it was. It was highbrow. That was the problem.
Yeah. What do you think? One less app to have on your smart TV.
I can't wait for it to be more expensive than a thing that's already doubled in price over the last 5 years, 4 years. 2019,
Apple TV
it was
Plus
$7, and now it's $14. I think.
Well, wasn't Apple like $7 when it started?
I think it was like
$10 now.
$6, and now it's $10.
What the heck? Why they're all getting so expensive
in this economy? What I don't know. Just if it stays the same price, Brocon, it's inevitably going to be increased price. So Bergeron, but now I'll get to watch Hulu stuff that I hadn't watched. I don't know. I don't know. They're going to increase the price.
Sure. We'll skip the last couple movie things. Just
Sounds good.
We've got we're ways into the podcast.
Yeah,
we got TOMP.
We do have TOMP to talk about.
So first up,
let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. That one gaming podcast. The Last of Us 2 Remastered was announced this week, Jimmy. Okay. By Naughty Dog. A game that already has a PS5 patch.
That runs at 60 frames.
Yeah.
The visual fidelity is going to be so minimal.
Yeah.
That will not be a reason to get this, I think.
So is it a full $60 game?
I believe it's like a full $60 game, but
it's an upgrade
path of $10.
Yeah. So if you already own the PS4 version, it's $10 upgrade, kind of like what they did with the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection or whatever.
But the difference is that those games did not have a PS5 patch.
Yes.
And The Last of Us 2 did. So like if you had a PS5, it was running at the Uncharted would run at like PS4 Pro level.
Yeah.
And then with the upgrade, it ran with like PS4 Pro level, but 60 frames per second. And then there was also a VRR like 40 frames per second at 4K or whatever, that sort of thing. And I'm assuming that's going to be like that for this one. So I guess like maybe you're like, oh, I have the 120 hertz 4K 40 frames per second mode that I want to do or something, I guess would be your big motivation here other than the roguelike mode.
Yeah, so there's actually what my devil's advocate for this release is that this actually does add some stuff to it. And I would say $10.
It adds a couple skins.
Yeah, probably.
Too. It does.
That's right, it does. And it's $10. So if you own the game, this stuff might be worth $10 to you. It might be worth $10 to me, honestly. You got a roguelike mode. Which roguelike, it's, you play, you die, you start over with like upgrades or whatever. So wave-based combat thing. We'll see how that exactly pans out. There's like cut content that they're implementing in some either museum fashion or in the game somehow. That wasn't very clear. Regardless, that might be cool to see. There's like a speed run mode. There's like free guitar play or whatever.
Yeah. What? Am I thinking of a different game where there's like lost levels?
That's this? Yeah,
that's this. So is that like just extra game?
Yeah, it was unclear on that reveal
like deleted
trailer.
Scenes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like full levels you can play or if there are games. I'm thinking of like Insomniac. It's done it with like Ratchet and Clank before, where they do like a little museum thing, developer thing, where they'll like show off levels that weren't fully implemented, but they aren't also fully playable, kind of thing. It's kind of a playable museum. The way Ratchet and Clank has done it before is very cool, honestly, very interactive. But I don't know if that's what they're doing here or if it's actually playable. But I don't know. Like that amount of stuff to me might be worth $10. The roguelike mode sounds kind of fun. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And I'll wait for the Digital Foundry tech analysis of the visuals and whatnot.
Sure.
That they do.
Yeah. I mean, just by, eyeballing it at the trailer, it looks exactly
the same.
It's no different.
I'm at a Bergeron. I mean, is it the most necessary thing? No, but I am going to replay that game, I believe, this spring sometime or early this summer, because I am going to Seattle this summer with the in-laws.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, I should replay that game.
Yeah.
Because it all takes place in Seattle pretty much.
And then you can be like, oh, that's from Last of Us.
Hey, that's the thing from this game that none of you have played.
Yeah, exactly.
They go, great.
Be pointing that out.
Hey, this is where that one lady beat that other lady to death.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. My hope with this, which is based on absolutely no, evidence or anything, is that if they're putting all of these on PS5, maybe they are making Last of Us 3 like soon for PS5 at some point.
What else would they be working on at this point?
I don't know. Because if this is all, maybe they just won all 3 games on PS5.
The multiplayer mode, that's not coming out anymore, probably.
Yeah. I was wondering, I was also wondering, do you think this roguelike could be repurposed from that?
That was a thought that I had, yeah.
I mean, once again, based on no evidence, but maybe.
We run entirely on speculation here. We'll see. I mean, obviously, I have very mixed emotions and feelings about that game. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to like revisit it almost, was it 2020? Almost 4 years later now? Wow. How is that game that old already? What has happened to us, Holden?
I know, we're getting old.
My goodness. By the time I play that, it will be like over 3.5 years old again when this one comes out. Which, I mean, it is like one of the best looking PS5 games you can play. Like, so the fact that like it's getting a remaster is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
They should have just called it like director's cut or like done that thing. They just should have called it the director's cut.
Yeah,
like they've done with their other exclusives.
Yeah,
then you would avoid. Then you would have
Ghost of
avoided
Tsushima.
all this like memes of like, oh, it's remastered for this game that's 3 years old and it looks completely fine.
Yeah, honestly, that would have been smart.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
But they had Last of Us Part 1 remastered. So then they're like, well.
Didn't they just call it Part 1?
That's right. Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Because the original game didn't have the Part 1. So,
yeah. But it was The Last of Us remastered. Last of Us Part 1 remastered. That's what we'll get on PS6.
Nice little mouthful there. But Jimmy, there was some Suicide Squad gameplay here. I didn't watch it. Well, Jimmy, what do you think of this new Suicide Squad game?
I think the traversal looks fun. The world looks great. The gameplay, the gunplay and stuff, I'm just not a shooter person. Mm-hmm. I mean, you like Doom.
Yeah, I
right?
like Doom.
So, I mean, maybe it could scratch that itch and Returnal, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I thought the performances were a little. I thought it was slow paced, like the cinematics and whatnot. And I thought the animations weren't as finely tuned as the Arkham games, but maybe I could just have rose tinted glasses to what I'm thinking of for Arkham Knight.
Sure.
Which I think is a game that holds up remarkably well from a technical standpoint in a lot of ways. It was very ahead of its time, and gosh darn it, needs a freaking PS5 patch like no other game in the world. Gee whiz, they need to make those games playable in 60 frames per second on modern consoles. That is insane that they're not.
I know.
Insane. But good thing they put all this time and resources into this instead. I don't know. Look, the story I think sounds really interesting. The fact that you have to take down the Justice League and it's like Brainiac or whatever. I mean, it's cool. I think that's the thing that would be the most likely thing to get me to buy it is if I heard the stories like very good. Otherwise, I mean, just yikes.
Yeah. I mean, from at least the old stuff and the few clips I've seen of the new gameplay footage, it looks like it could be very monotonous, which is unfortunate. I got my biggest problem with what little I've seen is like the environments are cool, but it also is just like a lot of buildings. And it doesn't look like there's a ton of variety there. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of what Arkham Knight was, wasn't it?
It's fair, but I don't know. I guess maybe Arkham Knight had other things going on that was just more interesting and took me away from the fact it was, just Gotham City.
And then once again, they got rid of all the civilians.
Yeah.
They like turned into the henchmen. They like turned them into the Brainiac's henchmen. So you're just killing innocent people when you're attacking the henchmen. They explain like how they get all their traversal abilities. They like go into the Hall of Heroes or whatever it's called. It's like this museum and they just steal all their stuff. And
Okay.
I mean, that's creative. It works. But I just think it's like I was talking to you before the podcast. I was like, the one thing Rocksteady is known to be not great at is boss battles. And they're like, let's build a whole game around like major boss battles.
Yeah.
Also, Wonder Woman is nowhere to be found in any of these. So I'm just assuming she's the one good guy who hasn't been
That could be
changed.
Yeah.
That's my thought, my theory. I don't know. I'm going to give it a Bergeron because hopefully it's good and Rocksteady doesn't crumble because of this game.
Yeah, I'll give it a Bergeron. I mean, I guess I literally didn't see it, but based on what you're saying, Bergeron. Final thing, though, Jimmy. The Game Awards, the nominees came out for the Game Awards, and I won't go through all of them. I'll just talk about the best game of the year, which the nominees are Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil 4, Baldur's Gate 3, Super Mario Wonder, Spider-Man 2, and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
All sequels.
Yeah.
I just realized that.
Yeah. Any strong thoughts? I mean, you've only played one.
Spider-Man is the only one I've played. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, no, I mean, Spider-Man's fun.
That is fun.
That's what I got to say. That's my opinion. It's my hot take.
If I were a betting man, I'd go Baldur's Gate. It's going to win.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's got a lot of momentum. People really seem to like it, the people who do. But then again, does it have that big of a fan base?
I think so. It's getting a lot of people that wouldn't normally play those kinds of games to play it. So I think it has a good chance to win. The other one I would say has a chance is Zelda, probably.
Yeah.
Between those 6. Between the 2 I've played, I want to play most of those. Between the 2 I've played, I probably like Mario more, honestly. Between that and Spider-Man. But I don't know. We'll see. I really want to play Alan Wake.
Did you say
so
Dead
bad.
Space or no Dead Space?
Not Dead Space.
No Dead Space.
Dead Space got a couple nominations.
Was kind of the odd one out.
Yeah, Dead Space got some nominations, but no Game of the Year.
Resident Evil 4 was on there, right?
Yeah.
So put that on my Christmas list.
Nice.
All right. VR mode coming next year, I think, for that one.
I think it's winter. Sometime this winter, I think.
Yeah, Ethan Winters.
Yeah, Ethan Winters.
I got to freaking finish Resident Evil 8. I got to finish Horizon Zero Dawn. I got to finish Spider-Man. I got to finish Resident Evil 8. But we were talking, like, we have such big back catalogs, but there is just a wasteland in 2024 of new games coming out.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Because I think Wolverine they think it's actually 2025.
Yeah. It's probably, I wouldn't be surprised.
But friggin' Final Fantasy 7, though, is that next year? Too?
Yeah. That's the only game I can think of that I'm excited for. And that's February. So most of the year is like empty.
Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah. And that's it for news this week, Jimmy.
There we go.
A big news segment. So
yeah, lots of news. Too much news. Which means it's time for a real quick TOMPeyes, Holden.
Yes.
They forgot my order.
Yeah, they did.
Just straight up forgot.
So we went with my roommate, Kale, who went and saw Hunger Games with us. And so we went to Popeyes first. I got my food first, and then Kale not too long after. And then you were just sitting there for a long time.
Well, to be fair, the chicken wasn't quite up, but they said it is down, so it shouldn't be very long. Mm-hmm. 20 minutes later. Yeah. And I'm like, this chicken should be done. I like go up and it's clearly done.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, how's my order coming? And they're like, what'd you get? And I'm like looking, because they have this screen, right? It just says all the orders and they like knock it off and whatnot. And I'm like, this is just, they clearly just have not.
Forgot the order.
They just deleted the order and have not made it. And this guy would have like made anything I told him to make. Like he had no recollection of me doing. He's like, what'd you get? And what else? And what was this? I was honest. I told him what I got, but I could have just been like, oh yeah, I got a 20-piece bucket and a large fry and 2 sides of mac and cheese.
Save some of that for later.
Yeah. But ice machine was working this week. That was nice. I don't think we talked about that. The week we didn't. We just had tepid.
Yeah,
just warm soda, flat. Not appetizing.
No, it was kind of gross. Yeah, it was. Mine was good, although the only thing I'll say about mine is we usually go for dinner. We went for an afternoon showing of the movie. It was a bit too much food for me for lunch.
Okay. Yeah. They did.
I just got my normal, which is it's my dinner usually.
They did toss in a couple of ranches for me. It's like, you want any dipping sauces, for free. So that was nice. Saved me like 50 cents or something,
for asking. For ranch.
There we go. But that's anything else to say about Popeyes? Tasted great though. Yeah, I'll tell you
food
what.
This week.
Always worth the wait.
Oh yeah. Popeyes always delivers.
And we were going to like a 2-hour 40-minute movie with like ungodly amount of trailers beforehand that we still missed half of, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
So that was nice. There we go. That's TOMPeyes. Let's talk briefly about Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Holden. Okay.
All right, Jimmy. So, Monarch Legacy of Monsters is the first Apple TV Plus show where we've talked about, I think.
On the show,
on the podcast. You've watched Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've listened to you talk about Ted Lasso. I don't know anything about it. I don't listen to you really. But
yeah.
But anyway, Monarch Legacy of Monsters. This is the new show set in Legendary's Monsterverse, which is where like the Godzilla versus Kong movies are from.
Monsterverse.
Yes. What'd you think of this first episode?
I thought it was pretty dull, and I don't think we should watch the rest of this show, because boy, do I not care about anything that's happening. I thought it was fine. I mean, it's fine. I think it's fine. I'm just like, wow. I didn't realize how much I do not care about this world at all. Like these characters, okay, the dad cheated, okay, whatever. Godzilla's cool. That little monster fight at the beginning with John Goodman, that's cool. But I'm like, I have no investment into any of these characters. And I get like they're probably new or whatever, but I'm like, I am so not interested in what is going on that I don't know if we should talk about this next week. Sorry, old to burst your bubble. If you were really wanting to watch this show, but I'm like, I will be open to revisiting it if the rest of the show is reviewed very well. But I just think if it just stays like this, the show is gonna do nothing for me. So,
oh, fair enough.
Because I'm like, I don't even remember like what Monarch is, to be honest. They're like, are they the bad guys?
They're just like the government organization that's like vaguely threatening, but also maybe not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. They're very mysterious. I assume that's what they're gonna get into in this show at some point.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you like this a lot? I'm sorry if you like this a lot.
I won't say I loved it. I thought it was, fun enough.
I don't think it's bad at all. I just do not care. I just don't. I'm like, this was fine. This was competently made. The performances are fine. The CGI is really good. I don't care what's happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I personally was starting to like some of the new characters because these are all, aside from John Goodman. John Goodman at the beginning is a character from Kong Skull Island, which I saw that years ago. I cannot remember what happens to his character in that movie.
I don't either. I'm like, does he die? I saw it too. And I liked that movie. I was like, this movie was better than I thought it was going to be.
That movie has the best. That movie has like a stacked human cast in it, and I remember them being probably the best human cast out of all those 4 movies. But I can't remember what happens to John Goodman in that movie.
Couldn't tell you.
Tom Hiddleston's in it.
Couldn't have told you that.
He's like the main guy, but yeah.
Just the main character.
Yeah, he is.
Is there a girl? Is there
Brie Larson? Brie
Larson's in that movie?
And Samuel L. Jackson. And
boy, you just got all the
John C. Reilly. Yeah, a bunch of people.
I do remember John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
Of all the people,
he's like the
isn't
crazy
there a little
guy
girl or something, or a little boy? And
there's
then
probably
then
a
there's
little girl.
Because isn't that a thing in Godzilla versus Kong? There's a little girl that like makes King Kong calm.
Yeah,
something
I think
like
you're
that.
right. So yeah, that was probably.
They're like,
set
we
got to
go let the girl see King Kong in his dome.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Although it wouldn't be the same little girl because that movie takes place in the 70s. Kong Skull Island does.
Oh, well, maybe there's not a little girl.
I can't remember.
What happened?
There might be a little girl. Anyway, this show. Yeah, we have this show is kind of set between 2 main timelines. You have the present timeline, which is centered around this woman. I don't remember the character's name. Woman character. Call her.
Dad cheated on my mom.
Yeah.
Character.
Who I think has at least the setup to be somewhat interesting. Like
teacher who watched all her kids except like 2 die.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ. So yeah, she was a survivor of the 2014 Godzilla attack in San Francisco, the Gareth Edwards Godzilla movie. And yeah, she was a teacher on a school bus that was on like the Golden Gate Bridge, and the bus fell off the bridge.
Godzilla, honestly, children murder.
I was like, half of me was like, oh, this is like actually kind of sad. The other half of me was like kind of laughing because I don't like the way it was filmed. Like they're like, ah! Yeah, they were just screaming, but then also they had gotten a couple of the kids off the bus and the door was open. And then like when it's falling, the door's just like shut again or something. I don't know. There's just like something about it that was.
I was waiting for the slide whistle.
Yeah.
SpongeBob where it blows.
But yeah, so she's kind of got this trauma related to Godzilla and the monsters or whatever. But she goes to Japan.
She's like, boy, this legacy of this monster is not very good right now.
Not for me, no.
Tell you what, he sure is like, Godzilla, he?
I actually think Godzilla's a she in these movies.
She really is like an atomic weapon blasting through this town right now.
Yeah. But she goes to Japan to, she has these keys from her father that her father died. So she goes to Japan to figure out what these keys are to. And it's to an apartment where we find out that her father had another whole family. So she has like a half brother.
Do you think there's like two two of them, like synchronism, like they both exist at the same time, and there's actually two people, but he's the same person or something. And it's like, oh, I didn't cheat on you. There was two of me, and we each had our own lives or something weird. Timeline. I don't know, some weird timeline. There's a lot of like the intro is a lot of like mirrored time warping.
That's true.
Yeah, on. The Monarch logo.
It is all about about time, and it's very time based.
I manipulated the time here. This is Christopher Nolan talking about how he made Kong or
how he made Monarch Legacy of Monsters.
Which he didn't make, but I'm just pretending like he did.
So honestly, I mean, I guess that could be a solid guess or something similar to that.
It's actually simple physics, actually. It's just
it makes sense.
If you've seen Interstellar, it would all make sense.
Yeah. They go to a little Godzilla shelter because there was a drill or whatever. She has like a panic attack.
Thinks about all her students dying.
I honestly, I like the aspect of them trying to like showing how the monsters have like changed how we like act and stuff.
Yeah,
or how
they got missiles just on the highway.
Yeah, and they've got these designated Godzilla shelters. There's like an evacuation lane at the airport and stuff. That's fairly interesting, I think.
Spraying everybody getting off the plane.
Yeah,
like that's gonna stop another monster attack.
And I can't remember. I guess I have the Wikipedia pulled up here. I could just see. So it is set 1 year after Godzilla. So this is all the other movies.
2015.
Yet. Yeah, so 2015. But then you have the other storyline, which is in the past in 1959, where you have Wyatt Russell's character, who it plays the same character as Kurt Russell. We haven't seen Kurt Russell's character yet. And that's the other thing we should say. We only watched one episode of this show.
There's 2 episodes.
There's 2 episodes out. I only watched one because I did not know there were 2 out.
I realized there were 2, and I was like, I don't really have time. I was either going to be able to play Spider-Man a little bit this weekend or watch this show and not play any Spider-Man at all. And I took the executive decision that
to watch or play Spider-Man.
To play Spider-Man.
Fair enough. But yeah, so it's in the past, Wyatt Russell and then this guy from
2.
Workaholics. He's one of the main guys in Workaholics, and then this other lady. They're going to a place in Russia or Kazakhstan.
Do you want to know a little Easter egg, Holden,
sure,
that I picked up on while watching? The one guy, when they're driving, it's 1959. One guy has a Kansas City Monarchs hat on, which was a Negro League team back before Jackie Robinson played Major League Baseball with the Dodgers in 1947, and Major League Baseball was integrated. So like it was it was like the New York Yankees of the Negro Leagues, as they were called. Sure. And that's where like a lot of the most famous African American players played for in the United States before baseball was integrated. And they're called the Monarchs. Get it? The Monarch.
Like the thing in the show.
They're the thing in the show. I'm like, yep. Because I saw like the KC on the hat, and I knew the time period, which would have been after integration, but still, like these characters would
that stuff would still exist.
So I was like, I wonder if that's the Kansas City Monarch hat, and I looked it up, and it is. So there you go, Holden. I wonder how many people picked up on.
Honestly,
that.
that's a kind of fun little Easter egg.
It's a fun little one.
But they're going to this facility because they're tracking monsters.
So much radiation.
But then there's not.
I better just take off my gas mask recklessly.
Yeah, I was like they're treating like the one scientist like he's like a nerd or something, but like he's right.
You just take your gas mask on, man. It's not like you will have life-altering consequences potentially.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a little hot in here. It's a little sweaty.
I mean, I don't think I'll give this movie or this show enough credit for thinking this like deep about it, but I guess like maybe safety was as big of a deal then. It wasn't as widespread with rate because
they didn't even know smoking was bad.
Yeah. When was Chernobyl? I was like
that was
80s. Yeah, so like you didn't even have stuff like that 80s. Or anything.
That whole sequence just made me want to watch Chernobyl.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I could be watching Chernobyl instead of this show. It's not a great thing to think of while you're watching a show. Again, this
Chernobyl's
is not
very good though.
Again, this is not bad at all. Like, there's nothing. I'm like, whoa, that was stupid. That was bad. I'm just like, it was competently made, And that's why I'm like, this is not good because I don't care about this now, and there's really nothing wrong with it.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
I'm trying to think. So they go in there, and then there's bug monsters.
Lots of bug monsters, but that was very
monsters.
predictable.
Yeah, like of course it's gonna be little bug monsters. They're gonna hatch when
very
they're down there.
alien.
Yeah.
Esque.
And then when they're trying to get out, the woman seemingly gets sucked down to the bug monsters.
If she's not dead, she's like
what
Captain Phasma levels of
heck?
resurrection.
And then that's kind of where the episode ends. But I guess in the present day stuff, you have them finding out that, or finding like the safe, and the safe has a picture or has all the tapes and whatnot. They find a tape. They take it to the love interest from the Flash movie.
Yeah, I was like, she looks so familiar, and I'm like, yep, that's where I know her from.
Yeah, and she decodes it, and there's a picture of the lady from the past.
What is she standing in? I don't know. It seems pretty obvious.
Like a big monster footprint.
Looks exactly like a Godzilla footprint to me.
Yeah, like you just
I don't have my
year.
doctorate like a couple other characters in this show, but come on here.
And the Monarch organization seemingly gets a little warning that they're doing some decrypting, and they're like, the one guy's like, "Hey, can you handle this?" It's probably Kurt Russell.
Yeah, there we go. Can't wait. Maybe we'll review it if it's good at the end.
Sure.
There we go.
I'm gonna keep watching it because
Okay.
I'm at least intrigued by it. I agree. It's not like it doesn't get like really going right away, so it could be a slow burn. We'll see.
There's so many other things. I'm at the point where it's like there's so much good TV. I will not be able to watch all the good TV in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I watch this if it's not gonna? If it's like, unless it, again, if it's great and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it really kicks up, it kicks into gear, the ending is great, that sort of thing, then yeah, I can always go back and watch it.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not eagerly like, I literally saw there was a second episode and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this.
That's fair. Yeah, I enjoyed it personally. Yeah. I think like if you
I have nothing against people who enjoy this. I think like you are totally viable to enjoy this. Again, I think it's competently made, intriguing enough if you're on board with the premise. I just didn't realize how much I don't care about these things.
I think if you like the MonsterVerse movies, you'll probably, from what I understand of like, so I think there's 10 episodes in the season, which seems like a lot actually. But I think the first either 6 or 8 episodes were reviewed by critics, and it seems like there's actually a decent amount of monster stuff in it, considering that it's a TV show. So if you like the movies, it's gonna have the monster stuff here, so you'll get that. The characters seem to be much better written than like any of the human characters in any of those movies. So I feel like if you like those movies, you'll probably like this. That's kind of where I'm at. But at the same time, like, I like those movies. They're not like must watches for me, but they're like enjoyable. And that's kind of where this is at for me. Like, it's not crucial watching.
You're that high in those movies? I like Kong Skull Island was fine. Godzilla, the first one was fine. Okay, Godzilla King of the Monsters. That one,
I don't like King of the Monsters. I like the other ones.
Godzilla versus Kong, like the stuff where they actually fought was cool, and then the rest of it was just trash.
It was, yeah, for the most part.
I don't know. I didn't expect you to be that high on these movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I maybe I'm looking back on them fondly, but I feel like when we reviewed Godzilla versus Kong, I was like, it's fine.
A ringing endorsement.
No, but I mean, the monster fights are always fun in these movies, I think.
Which we could always just YouTube later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. I don't know. I liked it.
I'm hoping that it takes off. It's very good. And then I watch the rest of it. That's my hope.
I hope so too. I hope it takes off and is very good, so then I don't waste my time with it.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Well, that's that. Probably won't come back with the weekly review unless Alden's like, Jimmy, this is amazing. You got to watch it.
Very good.
That's the plan for that. It's time to talk about a really long Hunger Games prequel movie.
It's like the same length as most of the Hunger Games movies.
Is
maybe
it
slightly longer. It's both
Mockingjays that long?
No, okay. I think the Mockingjays are shorter because they're 2 parts of a book, but I think the other 2 Hunger Games books are or movies are around this.
Yeah, I can see that. But there we go. Let's talk about Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is going to be our non-spoiler review. So if you have not watched it, you are free to listen to this, hear our thoughts, and decide whether or not you want to go out and see this movie. All right, non-spoiler review starting right after this.
All right, non-spoilers for The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Let me pull up our synopsis here, Holden.
Yeah.
Years before he becomes the tyrannical president of Pan Am, 18-year-old Coriolanus Snow remains the last hope for his fading lineage. With the 10th annual Hunger Games fast approaching, the young Snow becomes alarmed when he's assigned to mentor Lucy Gray Baird from District 12. Uniting their instincts for showmanship and political savvy, they race against time to ultimately reveal who's a songbird. They race against time to ultimately reveal who's a songbird and who's a snake.
Here's
you get it? It's symbolism.
Here's the thing. I feel like you can just guess who's a songbird and who's a snake before even seeing the movie.
Wow.
That's not anything against the movie. It's a prequel, so that's why I'm saying that. Anyway, Jimmy. This is directed by Francis Lawrence, who directed all of the Hunger Games movies aside from the first one. But this movie, I might be after. So I rewatched all of the Hunger Games movies prior to this, and like the week and a half leading up to it. I feel like I think of those movies lesser, like overall, like across the board. Like maybe whatever I would have given them like 5 years ago, I give it like 2 points lower.
2 points.
One or 2 points lower, maybe. I just don't think they hold up as well. I think this one might be my favorite out of all of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, great. I don't think this movie is like fantastic. It has a lot of flaws, but I think maybe a lot of that comes from the fact it feels very different in a lot of ways. In general, I think I like the cast performances more in this one too. Like, I think there's a lot of things that you could make the argument either way. I'm not trying to make this like a definitive statement, but I think this one might be my favorite narrowly.
What would be second?
Catching Fire. Yeah.
I have not seen any of the movies since the last one came out in theaters, so I am not one to talk about the quality.
Fair enough.
Well, I just remember reading the books. Catching Fire was my favorite. And then the second, and then the first one, and then the third one.
Yeah.
I remember the final 2 movies being better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, they were worse. They were the ones that suffered the worst on rewatch. Yeah. Especially the second, like the final Hunger Games movie. I remembered it being a lot more entertaining than it was, but so much of it felt just like Mockingjay Part 1 and was very boring. I don't know.
Like you said, I didn't realize. I remember how long they were. This movie is better than I thought it was going to be. Well, it's exactly how I thought it was going to be based on the trailer when it first came out, but then the reviews were not very good.
Yeah.
And so my expectations lowered, and I'm like, no, it is what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's another Hunger Games movie, like through and through. It feels very much like that in direction and cinematography and music. I mean, pretty much everything. You got a lot of the returning technical crew here. But so, I mean, if you like the Hunger Games movies, like this is a logical one to see.
Yeah.
I didn't realize James Newton Howard did the score for all of these movies. He's a very good composer. So, yeah.
I think so. Standout thing, like the performances are very solid. I think that Tom Blythe as Snow,
Coriolanus,
Corio,
which I did. I mean, we were discussing that, I think, last week. His name, I finally did like get it cemented in my brain just because of how much they said it in this movie.
Coriolanus Snow. He was great. Jason Schwartzman as Lucky Flickerman.
So good.
Was very good. He was just as good as what's his name?
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci as what's the character's name?
It's another Flickerman.
Oh,
I'm pretty
Caesar
Flickerman.
Is that what it is?
I'm pretty sure Jason Schwartzman is just supposed to be like his ancestor some way.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was. Jason Schwartzman, I think he's he's in a lot of stuff, but I think he's great in almost everything. He was a very good pick for the host of the games.
Yeah, and Rachel Zegler I thought was good as well.
Mm-hmm.
She sings. She's a very good singer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the surrounding performance, I mean, you have Viola Davis is always great. She kind of hams it up a little bit more.
She does. She's like chewing the scenery in this movie.
But like it worked. I was like, at first I was like, but then it works, I think.
It definitely grew on me because at first she was hamming it up a lot more than everyone else was. I was like, I don't know if this is the movie for this. But it ended up working for me.
Peter Dinklage hams it up a little bit too. I think he works for me too. I mean, Peter Dinklage is just always great.
He is.
He just has very sad eyes.
He does.
And he has his character is definitely a character with sad eyes in this movie too.
Which makes sense. Hunter Schafer's good, although she's kind of underutilized, I think.
What's her role?
She's the cousin.
Yeah. I don't think she really added anything for me.
Yeah,
but
she's like fourth build, but she doesn't really do much. It's kind of interesting.
Actually, she's fifth build, Holden, if you read it.
Oh, yeah, I guess if I look right here.
Yeah.
That would have been very easy.
Above Viola Davis. Interesting.
Yeah. And above the friend.
Yeah.
Too. Interesting.
Yeah, so I think the strength of this movie is just seeing like how the Hunger Games came to be. And like where these ideas originated and what the Hunger Games were at first. And like, because the Hunger Games is like a tradition that is very quickly dying out and nobody cares about it in this world, which is like, oh, that's interesting.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. And the way that they present this, like this tradition and the way they change it to make it more long lasting as we see it in the other movies is very cool because the way they set it up here is kind of like the most bare bones way you could describe the Hunger Games. I think it's like you just put a bunch of people in an arena and they kill each other. That's
except it lasts like 5 minutes because it's literally in arena. It's like a mini Coliseum.
Yeah, it's very small and like especially compared to the other movies.
The tributes are just nameless. They have a reaping ceremony, but that's it.
Yeah,
and then
it's not as much of a show as it is.
They just like put him in a cage, come and see him if you want, and then we just kill him like 2 days later.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. The Capitol doesn't watch. The districts don't watch. It's just
it's not the Super Bowl.
No. And I don't even know. I don't know if they ever say what they do with the winners prior to this movie. I don't know.
Yeah, no, like a lot of the things haven't been established. So like the whole mentor thing and like the whole
with like what Haymitch does in the first movies.
Yeah, like that sort of thing. And like the Victor's Village or whatever they call it in each district. I think it's cool to see a lot of these traditions kind of start here and where their origins are from. And just to see the Capitol back then, because it's like the Capitol is very opulent and very technologically advanced in the Hunger Games movies, and you have all this just like style and just extravagance.
Yeah, all the crazy makeup and hair and costumes, all of that.
Just wealth beyond your wildest dreams. And this one, it's more like you have a wealthy kind of bourgeoisie, whatever, or like wealthy elites, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's just like this almost like Soviet kind of style.
Yeah, the architecture,
the brutalism, and it just looks like just the most melancholy place to live. And you're like, this is supposed to be like the amazing life that the districts would love to have. And
and it's just like gray and boring and everything.
Sad.
So
depressing.
Sad. So the way that the Hunger Games evolves and as we see it throughout this movie, what I really like, and this is kind of goes for the character of Snow too. I like that it puts a lot of things in motion for like future games, or like in Snow's case, like his kind of development, but we don't see like everything. Like there's obviously 60 years in between like this movie and the other movies. So there's
64 years.
64 years. So there's a lot that can like happen in between now and then, but it puts a lot of those things in motion, and we can kind of see the trajectory it's going to go on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I don't have a good. Maybe the Solo movie is a good example. Maybe not. I'm trying to think of like an example of a movie where it's like a prequel. It's like at least 10 years prior, and they just establish everything. And then it's like, well, this is 10 years prior, so I guess they just didn't change at all in like in that 10-year gap or whatever. I just think it's cool. There's a lot of like implied stuff that takes place after the movie, and they set that up pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a strength of the movie. I think the fact that it is like one of the original Hunger Games, the Hunger Games part of it is not as interesting because it's just like the Hunger Games back then weren't interesting. This is like the first more interesting Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But you don't really know the other, like you have this relationship between Lucy Gray, played by Rachel Zegler, and Tom Blythe's Coriolanus Snow. And that's really it. You don't really, I mean, you know, just like, oh, that's the other District 12 guy.
Yeah.
Or that's the one lady who's like getting everybody to team up. But beyond that, you don't know anything about the other tributes. And the stuff in the arena is okay.
Yeah, like
there are moments, but it's nothing like
this. So they're starting to like implement certain ideas, which we can, I guess, maybe get into spoilers later, like details. They start implementing ideas with it, but it still is very basic and everything. And I think they do some interesting things, like they do some different things to kind of make you more invested in the games. It kind of feels like the movie knows that the games aren't that interesting, so they kind of throw some wrenches into it, or they kind of, you know, show it from different perspectives or whatever. But yeah, it's not as like central or like centrally interesting as in the other movies.
Inherently interesting, right? Because like
Yeah.
the games, it's not like, oh, look at this crazy map that's so different, and each thing is an hour on a clock or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's an arena.
Yep. There's some weapons.
Yep. And there's some passages that you find because the arena's not in pristine condition.
Yeah.
That's kind of, yeah. And then this movie is almost a little microcosm of the original trilogy of books and quadrilogy of movies, I guess. Mm-hmm. That the first two parts of it are kind of centering more around the Hunger Games themselves. And that's like very interesting. And then the last third is not about the Hunger Games, and it's not nearly as interesting or just entertaining.
The movie has got weird pacing issues, which that could be from the book. And a lot of people have been saying, you know, maybe split it into two movies. I'm not sure that would work, because then you like the natural point for that would be at the end of the second act, have the third act be the next movie or whatever. I'm not sure. I don't think that would necessarily work, but I'm like just wondering if there is a better way to present this than the way they did. Like,
I have to say it in spoilers, but I just think that they should have wrapped up the story arc, the character arcs in the second act. They should have found a way to do that at the conclusion of the Hunger Games instead of dragging it out over this other storyline, which I can see why I did it. And it felt like realistic, like, oh, if these people actually existed, like this is what kind of maybe would happen. Just not very interesting.
Yeah.
and it felt like the movie was ending when the Hunger Games ended, and you're like, oh, okay, part 3, because it's like broken into 3 chunks. It's like, oh, part 3 now.
Okay.
I think I listened to, normally I don't listen to reviews, but I listened to someone, might have been like Jeremy Johns or something, who said like how, like, I don't understand how a movie felt so rushed and so slow at the same time in the third act.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with that, because it's like there's like just massive changes in characters that happen very suddenly, but it's also very slow paced in the third act, and not a lot is happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of character development and character dynamics that shift kind of suddenly. There, it's just kind of annoying, honestly, because I feel.
Okay, finish your thought. I have a comp I want to make.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it's annoying because I feel like the characterization of everyone was done so well throughout the rest of the movie. And I don't know. I just feel like there's a more natural way to do it. And the movie's already long, so I'm not sure necessarily more time would be great. But
you know what movie this movie is very structurally similar to?
What?
Oppenheimer. I would say it is because Act 2 is the Trinity test, and then like the third act happens, and it's completely different. But I mean, obviously, Oppenheimer's third act is incredible.
Yeah, that is true.
But
though,
I think like very
setup,
like it's like okay, we let up. Here's this big climactic thing. It kind of feels like the movie could end right now, and now there's a whole other part to it that's gonna dramatically change this character's future. Which is a very weird comparison to make, but I feel like they have a lot. Like it's like okay, we're setting these things in motion to build up to this huge event. It happens, that culmination happens, and then there's just another hour of the movie left.
Yeah,
and story to tell. That's a lot slower paced and dialogue based, and kind of changes the course of the character's future.
Yeah.
So there's your Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and Oppenheimer comparison that we were all expecting going into this review.
Absolutely. Other things outside of spoilers, I think just general like set design or like production design is very good.
Yeah, that the mid-century modern futurism.
It like makes sense because like as you said, 64 years beforehand, so technology can advance quite a bit in that time.
Very analog.
Yeah, it makes sense to see where it's at. It's very cool, like a cool difference from the other movies.
Is Pan Am Earth? Is it on Earth?
It's like unclear. It like so in the movie, like there's the part where he's like where Jason Schwartzman is giving the weather update, and I was trying to like notice or look at the map. It looks vaguely like North America, so I assume I think that's where it's supposed to be, kind of, but I don't know if it's like just an alternate reality where the U.S. never happened or whatever. But
I thought it was like a post-apocalyptic thing. Like the apocalypse happened and now everything's a district. I cannot remember that.
I always thought that too, but I'm also at the same time, I'm like, well, then why don't we ever see like any American landmarks or anything?
Maybe it's not an America hole then. You ever think of that?
Well, yeah, but like I said, based on that map, it looks like North America. It looks like, I can't remember which district, maybe even goes down into Mexico. But once again, could be wrong. The map's kind of vague. But yeah.
I will say, they do just go to District 12 again. I'm like, we couldn't have picked a different district.
Yeah, there's a few things, and that's maybe, I guess, one of the more subtler things.
Like, why not just like District 11 or District 9? There was a District 13, wasn't there? I guess maybe that was when the war happened. They we bombed
I think
it.
That was the war, yeah. Yeah, there's a few things in this movie that we'll talk about in spoilers. I think that's one of the more subtle things, I guess, that it's like trying to harken back to your nostalgia for the old movies. But yeah, that you could just do.
We're treading into a territory we're probably complaining about things that are nitpicking things that are in the book too.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I agree though. It could have been a different district. I guess like the idea is you have Snow helping out someone from the poorest district, but I mean it's not like District 11 or 10 are that much better off or anything. Just show us a little something different.
Yeah. There we go.
I think that's about all I have in non-spoilers.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to talk about spoiler-wise.
Yeah.
It was better than my expectation. And I think if you are a fan of the Hunger Games, I think this is definitely worth seeing. Even for me who hadn't seen them in a long time. I just think that, it was interesting to see the background of all this stuff, how it came to be. Coriolanus' Snow's character arc, while maybe it doesn't completely land, it's very interesting to follow along. I thought it was entertaining enough. It's long, but it didn't feel obscenely long. Like I wasn't like dying for the movie to end. I thought I was entertained by it in a way that I was hoping. I just was hoping, please don't be boring, and it wasn't. So. Yeah, I think, go see it if you like the Hunger Games.
I'll give it like a 7.5 out of 10, I think. I
I do think it benefits to have watched the other ones before this, I would say, to kind of know where these things are heading.
Yeah. I mean, really, my major gripes are with some of the pacing stuff, just how they handle certain characters, mostly stuff in the third act, I would say. But it's a solid Hunger Games movie. Not too many complaints. If you liked the others,
would you give it 7.5?
I think 7.5.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, spoiler time. Time to discuss the spoilers that we want to dive into. So you have been warned. Our spoiler discussion of The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, comes up right after this.
All right, spoilers for The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Click away if you haven't watched the movie yet, or listen if you don't care.
There you
go. Yeah, so we'll start at the beginning with this. So the movie starts out and it's the flashback of Snow as a kid.
Yeah.
He's running around. He runs into a rabid dog, which is foreshadowing for later.
Yeah.
I guess. And his dad's dead. That's all we learned, really. He was a child during the war and his dad's dead.
Yeah. Your dad is dead now. He's got stained glass images of himself over his house.
Whatever that was about. But
I don't think poor Snow worked for me. I don't think he needed to be poor. I feel like it was just a manipulative thing to be like, oh, you feel bad for President Snow.
Yeah, that's
I honestly don't think it added anything to the movie for him to be poor. I think it makes it less interesting.
Yeah, because honestly, like, I think you could, if he was rich, that would almost like enrich his dynamic with Lucy Gray when they kind of bond, right? Like I get why they did it. It's so then maybe that bond can happen faster just because, he's, even though she's from a poor district, he's from the capital, he's still, facing poverty. But I think if you find a way to make them empathize with each other, even though they're from totally different social classes, that would almost be more interesting.
I also think this movie would be more interesting if Lucy Gray had just manipulated him the whole time and used him ex machina style.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that is a much more reasonable way for him to become like the most evil person in Pan Am history, to be like, oh, I was completely lied to and used to by someone from the district. You cannot trust any of these savages. They deserve to be this. We're going to make a spectacle out of them. I'm going to destroy any hope in their lives. And I feel like just get revenge. I feel like that's a much better motivation than, I kind of want to be the president.
Yeah.
Kind of just want to work my way up this bureaucracy, not going to lie.
No loose ends.
Yep. I don't really want. Yeah, I would really like to climb this bureaucracy rather than just spend the rest of my life in the woods with this one girl, which maybe I want to do. But then she figured out that I lied about something, so now she just has disappeared, and it's kind of ambiguous as to what happens.
Yeah, we can talk about that later when we get to the ending. I think we should wait on that, but
I think we should dive into it right now. No, okay, we can work our way up.
But yeah, so he's working. He's at a school that is like a preppy school, kind of.
It's like future potential presidential candidates.
Yeah,
school,
and he's the poorest one there. There's a prize that is kind of like a scholarship to the school, the college, or whatever. But Peter Dinklage doesn't want to give it to him.
I don't want to give it to you because your dad helped me invent the Hunger Games.
I will say that twist worked for me.
The fact that he was hoping the Hunger Games would fall apart and stop.
Yeah, well, and the fact that he didn't really make it, because like
he was like drunk. It was like a drunken joke.
It was like his, like, sure, he shouldn't have been taking out his like anger or whatever on Snow or whatever, because it's just not right. But it wasn't like entirely like antagonistic. I was figuring it was something more like, oh, your father, I don't know, like bullied me or something. I don't know. It's like he resents coming up with this idea. He resents that Snow's son is like keeping it going and stuff. So it's like, it's not entirely like bad faith, I guess. So I liked that twist at the end. I thought was pretty well done.
Yeah, this was about to die, and I was steering this ship into the ground.
Yeah.
kind of under everybody's nose without them suspecting it. And now you have like reinvigorated it. So I hate you for that. And now I have to live with this stuff. And oh, look, you drugged me and I'm dead.
Yes. But yeah, so he's at this school, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have you guys mentor the
Hey, you guys want to win some money? Just kidding. You'll have to do a little bit more
a little extra credit. Not really extra credit. It's just a
mandatory
mandatory credit
assignment.
But yeah, then they all get assigned. Peter Dinklage purposely puts him with the District 12 person.
Yeah, which is again. When did that shift from these preppy kids doing it to a previous victor? You know?
Yeah. That's
it's like one of those things. It's like, oh, how did this shift from here to here? We don't see it. It happens off screen.
Yeah, I guess it's something you can just like imply is like, oh, as you get more and more victors, that's something that they can just outsource so then the Capitol doesn't have to do it. Essentially,
maybe President Snow just becomes Dictator Snow.
Yeah, there you go. But actually, I guess. Even though it's still kind of like looking in kind of stupid, I guess that, Peter Dinklage forcing him with the District 12 person does kind of make sense from like his character, even if it's still kind of boring. It's District 12.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Could be a little less obvious.
Yeah, right. Putting him with the very last person.
You get the guy from District 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they all Lucy Gray sings a song. They pulled into the Capitol.
I'm stuck on a band-aid and a band-aid stuck on me.
It was pretty cool when they sang that.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that.
Yeah.
They're in a cage. I honestly
the zoo.
The cage at the zoo. I thought that was all very cool. It's like, oh, they're being treated just horribly.
Yeah,
like they're not being
nobody
fed.
even came.
Yeah,
to see them. It was like, oh, look at these animals, but it's like a circus that no one goes to, no one cares about.
Yeah, you have Flickerman, on the TV or whatever doing a report, but there's like two kids there.
The Hunger Games literally is happening and they're not even showing it on television because they're like, oh, nobody's watching. Here's the weather.
Yeah. Flickerman does magic.
The quarter thing.
Which the second time, I don't think the quarter ever comes down.
I don't think it does either. I think it's just funny when he starts it the second time.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, then they start, training. Kind of.
These drones. What does he say? These drones suck.
These drones suck. These drones don't work very well.
Yeah, that's what these drones don't work very well. Which they don't. Those things are just lethal.
Dangerous. Oh my god. Well, that's another thing. Just like small detail. It's like, okay, so you have like the balloon drops or like drone things in the other movies that are like so perfect and how they like land right next to you. They're able to float right to where you are. Clearly 60 years of effort have gone into perfecting that technology because the first time they do it here, it is just, running in, like exploding.
An airstrike. You're just calling it an airstrike at that point.
Which, so when the games start I guess towards the end of the games, when Snow sends like 6 of them.
8 of them, I think.
That was so funny. I was like, that's very ingenious, honestly. Yeah. Very good strategy.
Like you had the whole poisoning the water situation and the wrong person drinks it. Like that's a good little fun moment. A lot of tension there. In general, the game itself is not the most interesting thing. I think like kind of the opening action sequence in there is pretty well done. But yeah, it's just a big arena. And clearly they know that because they keep cutting back to Snow from the outside perspective. They have Snow. He needs to like go in and get his friend, who I was talking with Kale afterwards. I think he has more romantic chemistry with his friend than Lucy Gray, honestly. There were a couple of times where I was like, are they going to kiss right now? Not to say I think Rachel Zegler and Tom Blythe do a good job together, but yeah, he has to go in and rescue his friend, get him out of there, and then he kills the guy with the piece of rebar or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like little wrenches thrown in there that keep it interesting for us, the audience, who have seen more interesting Hunger Games before.
Yeah. Remember when Rachel Zegler's like, wait a second, you've killed 3 guys instead of 2 guys? I was okay with 2. But if you kill 3 guys, that's where I draw the line.
That's over the line.
A lady has to have standards. Coriolanus.
Well, I was like, I can't. I couldn't believe that she wasn't like more upset with him at, like when he was like shooting people, or shot the one girl in the bar or whatever. But,
like, this is where you draw the line.
Yeah.
Who'd you kill? My previous
self. Obviously,
it's I'm very metaphor. I'm a very poetic dude. You know, find that
as
sexy?
I'm known to be.
Coriolanus. You don't have a name like Coriolanus without being able to say a few verses.
So he gives Lucy the rat poison that she like sprinkles on the one guy and also puts in the
that's
the
right.
water.
Yeah, puts it through the air vents.
Yeah. But he also, I guess we didn't talk about the snakes. There's the rainbow snakes that just like are very poisonous, but
I actually came up with that whole entire report.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, put your hand in these snakes.
She just like dies.
Stupid. She should have just said, you know what? I lied.
Yeah.
Fess
right.
up.
Maybe then Viola Davis would have just pushed her in.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's these
a lot of snakes.
A ton of snakes.
I would say more than a ton of snakes.
A few tons of snakes. But they're like incredibly deadly poisonous, but they don't, if they recognize your scent, they won't bite you. Which honestly, okay, I 100% did not see that setup there. I was like, okay.
I just thought it was for that one scene.
Yeah. But then,
he's like, he's got the handkerchief. And I'm like, okay, I see what he's doing now.
And that was
how is he going to
cool.
get it to her? First, I thought he was like writing her a note and passing it in. But then I was like, oh, no, it's her scent. I get it now.
Yeah. Which he sneaks it into the tank. I'm like, how does no one see it?
Yeah, I thought this. I'm like, why are these people turning and facing away from the tank that's being
lifted up?
Yeah. I'm like, that is not how this would happen in real life. I the exact same thought. There's no way. Like, oh, let's look up at the helicopter up there. And there's the thing.
That's the cool thing, not the big tank of rainbow snakes.
Yeah, I've seen this tank of rainbow snakes a lot.
But that helicopter, man, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, regardless, it was kind of clumsy how he got it in there. It was still cool, though. It was still a cool way for her to be immune. And then I liked how they play it off, at least to like the public and most people. They're like, oh, she just calms them down by singing.
Yeah.
Which, that's kind of fun.
Not.
And, Peter Dinklage knows that. And
you're banished for 20 years.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just kill him?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what would happen every other time. And Peter Dinklage is like clearly hates this guy and hates what he's doing. So
Coriolanus wouldn't make that same mistake with his games master.
No,
makes him eat the berries.
That's what that's setting up. Is he sees that mistake?
He says, don't let your enemies live, because then they'll come back and kill you.
But once the games kind of finish, that's when the movie gets less good. Yeah, he goes to
very
District
slow 12 in the military.
Yeah,
and his friend's
he's
like
a peacekeeper.
His friend's like, hey, let's incite a rebellion, but let's not. Let's just help these people escape.
Yeah.
But wait a second, they have guns. They're gonna make a rebellion.
Whoa,
how could I have seen that coming?
That's a step too far.
Coriolanus, you're gonna help me, right? You're gonna help me free these people, right? Because you said I need to do something good, right? You're not gonna turn me over to the authorities, right?
Yeah.
You're not a Nazi, right? You with your skin, your buzz cut blonde hair and your blue eyes, you're not a Nazi, right?
You haven't shown every other time to be incredibly loyal to this government, right?
And let's talk about these secret plans in front of these jabberjays, right? Why is his voice not also on the tape? When I thought they were gonna play it at the hanging tree, and then Lucy Baird was gonna, what's her name?
Lucy Graybeard.
Lucy Graybeard was going to hear it and be like,
it would be on the Jabberjay, and I was 100% expecting that, but they just play like a tiny clip.
Cut the tape. Cut the tape.
Cut it off.
No,
but
there's enough evidence.
They just play a tiny little tape, and then his friend dies, which he obviously Snoke regrets.
He's like, shoot, I shouldn't have turned him over to the Nazis.
Yeah. Dang.
Well,
my friend's dead.
Better just run away and tie up any loose ends.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot some people.
Yeah, so he runs. Yeah, so he runs away with Lucy Gray at the end of this, which, by the way, this is like 30, 40 minutes into this part of the movie. We've skipped over a lot because this part of the movie is just slow.
Why did the Capitol guards go partying in the towns with all the people who hate them? That sounds like a terrible idea.
I was under the okay, so in the Hunger Games movies, they've got like weird helmet masks on. So I was like, okay, in my mind, I was thinking of that. I'm like, okay, they could probably go out into the public and no one would know who they are. And it's
if
like,
there's that many people, you know?
Yeah. But at the same time, in this movie, they're just like wearing hats. Like everyone would probably recognize them as peacekeeper guards or whatever they're called. Yeah, so that is pretty silly. But yeah, they go out partying, finds Lucy Gray and all that. They reunite. And they've got a nice little fling going, all that. And then they decide to run away after his friend dies. And they go to the cabin they had previously been at the lake cabin. And this is okay, honestly, the rest of this act, it's a little rushed. I don't entirely hate how they're developing him. It didn't seem that forced for most of it, but it's at this point where it's like they're clearly just trying to wrap up this movie.
Yeah,
they just
it seems like, these guns are here. We could run off and be happy together, but man, I do want to be the president.
He's like, no loose ends, and then Lucy Gray is like this is like distrusting him. It was like her distrust of him. That came out of nowhere. Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Although, hold on, she did say, trust is bigger to me than anything else or whatever. I'd rather do
or she's
whatever.
Like, you can trust me more than anyone.
And then she said, trust is more important to me than love or something. Like, I don't know, love like means nothing if I don't trust you or something like that. Like, there's a very explicit line about how important trust is for her. And then she's like, who's the third person?
Myself.
Who's the third? Coriolanus. I don't know about that southern accent.
Yeah, that was
a little. I was like, did we need that?
I think it got a little better as it went on. It like the movie started, and I was like, does she have an accent? I like couldn't tell. It was a little iffy, but yeah, it didn't really need to be there.
Coriolanus.
But then he like chases her in the woods and finds a snake underneath the little thingy that he had given her previously. And then it's
her way of saying, you're a snake, Coriolanus.
Yeah. And then he shoots her. I mean, I think he does shoot her. It's like, it's supposed to be like kind of ambiguous, but it's because he like doesn't find the body. But I'm like, he probably just shot her.
How is there no blood anywhere?
Yeah,
if he shot her? Like, I don't know.
And then he starts shooting at the birds.
Oh, the birds. The symbolism, no. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, pretty much. He like goes back.
Well, things that you love most. That whatever he says at the end.
Peter Dinklage. Yeah, I can't remember, but he poisons Peter Dinklage, which is a nice prelude to how he apparently kills all of his opponents in the government.
Yeah.
So he kills Peter Dinklage with the poison. Yeah, we forgot to mention the Katniss line.
Oh, golly.
Worst line. So there are some genuinely funny moments in this movie, especially with like Jason Schwartzman. There's some decent comedy there. But the funny moment that was entirely unintentional, it was just so cringy, was when Coriolanus and Lucy Gray are like hanging out in the woods. And they're like, oh, there's this plant over here. And Lucy Gray's like, yeah, that's... They call it a swamp potato, but I call it Katniss. And I just am like, what? First of all, like
you're alone, Han Solo.
I'm like, well, so it doesn't even make it. So it's obviously just to force in the name Katniss in there. Why do you call it Katniss? What about it is like, yeah, that's that screams a Katniss name. What and then it's like, well, she calls it Katniss, then how does the character Katniss get that name? I don't know. It's so
she
stupid.
Has to be alive then, Holden. Maybe she's her great grandmother.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, maybe she got pregnant from Coriolanus Snow, and that Katniss is actually related to Coriolanus.
There was also that one awkward shot when Snow went into the arena and it shows the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Thought that was funny. I honestly that bit would have not bothered me if like he just picked it up and used that. I was like, okay, like if he had used it, whatever, it still would have been fan service, but at least it came to use in the scene. But it's just like, oh, there's a bow and arrow.
Yeah,
you know that. That's from the other movies.
Yeah. There we go. I liked it.
Yeah, I had
a good time.
It
makes me want to go back and watch the original ones now.
Sure. Yeah.
It's been so long.
I think in general, I just think this, even with the problems I have with Snow's character in the last act and Lucy Gray's to an extent, I think the characters in this just feel more well realized. And maybe that's just because it is a single story, cut and dry. But that was one of my big problems rewatching. It was
Did you read the books?
I haven't read this book. I've read the other books.
Okay,
though.
yeah.
That was one of my problems rewatching those other movies was I just felt like most of the characters were so underwritten, even taking the whole scope of the series into account. So felt like it was better done here. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. Good movie.
Yeah. Very good. Very good movie. Good. Yeah. I could see there's room in this world. I feel like there's so much that has not been realized on screen or even in the books. Mm-hmm. That like all the other districts, all the other Hunger Games, like they could like recreate the Quarter Quell movies or
what we really need is a Force Awakens style that takes place after the original movies and another tyrannical government has taken control. And it's basically just the same movie again as the first Hunger Games.
Or they could do the ones where it's like all the, what are the other Quarter Quells, right? Is it just like double the amount of people are in the games? Was that one of them? There were two other ones.
There were two other ones. I'm not sure if they've like specified.
They said it in the books.
Oh, maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, it's each Quarter Quell has something special. So there would be stuff to do there.
Yeah, and she does, from what I remember. I read these in middle school, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, so Suzanne Collins, I think, writes about how like they talk about specific moments from other games.
Sure.
So I wonder if any of those are like in the original, like any of this movie was in the original trilogy of books. Or
that'd be interesting.
I wonder if there are any hints, like she did lay out some of these stories kind of even vaguely before she explored them more in depth in the prequel book.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's way more stories to be told in this world if they think it's going to be a financially viable thing to do. I mean, they're always looking for cinematic universes. I feel like this one is prime for being made into one.
Yeah. There is plenty to mine here. I mean, there's stuff you could do even before this movie. There's stuff you could do in between this and the current or the other movies.
Yeah, like even how did the whole war and like what was it like before the war itself? Yeah. Like how did
Which granted, like that might be harder to market because
you'd call it
the Hunger Games, but there probably wouldn't be a Hunger Games in it. But it'd still be interesting. Like there's enough intrigue in this world.
But you could also just do a random Hunger Games too, like the 54th Hunger Games, and it's just some random characters and some random story that wasn't specified and all that.
Yeah, because I mean, the Quarter Quell in Catching Fire has a lot of the winners from previous games, but most of them aren't much older than like 20s, like 30s, I'd say. Like there's an old lady, there's a couple older ones, but most of them are like 30s, maybe 40s. So I don't know.
One of the greatest plot twists for me, like that I remember reading Catching Fire and them announcing that the Quarter Quell is that
the winners,
the tributes will be reaped from the previous winners, and realizing that Katniss is going to be back in the Hunger Games was like, oh my gosh.
At least
like doing the little mental math in my middle school brain. I was like, what just happened? Because I'm like, oh, this is not as interesting now that they're in the Hunger Games. What? They're back in the Hunger Games? Is it going to be Haymitch or Peeta in the Hunger Games? Like, what? How is this going to work? And all the former victors? And
I know it like makes sense why Peeta was chosen, but it would have been kind of interesting to see Haymitch in the game.
It would have been.
Because I want to know what happens with Haymitch. I want to know how he won a game because I mean, he's just like a depressed drunk by the time we see him. So like, I want to know what like.
Well, I'd like to see him like, he's still got it.
Yeah,
he's going down to the rec center and just dunking on a few kids.
Yeah,
teaching the middle schoolers and the high schoolers how it's done in the court.
What's the next movie? The Haymitch Chronicles.
The Haymitch Chronicles. Nice. There you go. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Yes.
That's our thoughts. Good discussion. Definitely worth talking about. And I think hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we did. And let us know what you think down in the comments or email in. But let's go on to the final segment of the show, which of course, Holden, is What Are You Doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
All right, Jimmy. This week, watched a couple things. I watched, first off, it was the 25th anniversary of Half-Life being released.
I saw that. I saw there was a documentary on YouTube.
Yeah.
Is that what you watched?
That is what I watched.
I saw that right before we started recording. I almost was like, I wonder if Holden knows this exists. I might send him the link.
Yeah, I got it recommended to me. It's on the Valve's like main YouTube channel, but it's made by Danny Dwyer, who does a lot of video game documentaries at No Clip, his own channel on YouTube, which is a very good channel. But it's very interesting because they brought back like pretty much the entire development team, including those that have like departed from Valve, and they like talk about making the game, how it changed over like its development cycle. I'm pretty sure a lot of it was like public knowledge before, but there's still some interesting insight. I honestly, one of the more interesting parts was this lady who like did all of the textures for the game. That was like her job, and she showed reference photos that she took for it, and it was really cool because it was like, oh, that's like they just like digitized that and it's like in its 90s style, and it was cool to see that, like the actual photo. Yeah, it was a very cool hour-long documentary. If you like Half-Life, I recommend it. They also like updated the game itself on Steam. There's like some new, like not with the main campaign necessarily, but there's some new like settings stuff, like new multiplayer maps, I think, like 25 years later, and some other small things. So I might replay it eventually. I mean, I will replay it eventually because I love it, but not anytime soon. But anyway, other than that, last night I watched a movie called Resurrection. It's on Shudder. It came out last year. It stars Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth. And it's a very weird, it's on Shudder. I'm not sure I would fully classify it as a horror movie. It's more of a thriller, I would think, but it's about this woman who's kind of she's a single mom, has a daughter, works at a very successful job, and Tim Roth like kind of starts showing up in her peripheral, and she gets like paranoid about this man. And like, it's someone from her past. She at first isn't very much elaborating, and he's seemingly not really doing much, but she starts slowly becoming more erratic and everything. It's very cool. It's very weird, especially towards the end. But I did quite enjoy it. Some very good performances. It had it felt like from Pearl, like an 8-minute monologue, just unbroken shot of Rebecca Hall's face. So it was very good. I liked it a lot. If you like weird thrillers, especially that go in weird directions, it's on Shudder. Other than that, the big thing watching this week was the Scott Pilgrim anime dropped, finally.
The whole thing? Or?
The whole thing, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's on Netflix. All 8 episodes are out. It is incredible. It is very different than what I was expecting. It's, I think, without getting into spoilers as to exactly what happens in it, for anyone that has played the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's the best comparison I could make, where it starts out just like the original, and narratively and like knowingly takes a lot of deviations. It's not just another adaptation. It feels like because as I'm looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, why would the original cast just come back for this, like, to voice the movie again? But there's a lot of changes to it, and it's very interesting. I think they've updated they kind of answer some criticisms of like the original source material in some interesting ways. I think the voice cast is all great. Chris Evans, his character in the movies was always great, but he gets more to do here. It's very fun. yeah, and visually, it's one of the best animated shows I've probably like ever seen in terms of how it looks. It's got such a great style and everything. So if you like the movie, if you like the comics, if you like both, yeah, I would absolutely recommend this. Yeah, and video game wise, just been playing more Dead Space. I was telling you before this that as soon as we recorded last week, I went home and played more, and I was like instantly better at the game. I was kind of complaining about how hard it was. I think it is kind of hard at the start, but once you kind of learn to utilize all the tools at your disposal, I think it's just way easier. And it is pretty creepy, very scary. There's some very cool moments in it. It's one of the best, honestly, like we were talking Last of Us 2. It's probably not quite on that level, but it is one of the best looking games I've probably ever seen, especially that it runs at 60, just normal, like regularly on PS5. Looks great. So yeah, very good game so far. What about you, Jimmy? What have you been doing?
Oh, gee. Well, not a ton. I have been watching more of my Arsenal documentary, Arsenal Football Club, on the last episode of that. So I'll finish that up this week. Mm-hmm. Emily and I have been watching some Scooby-Doo, a little bit more of The Killing Vote, where the show has ended. So we have a couple episodes left to catch up and see the ending of the show. I got on a weird tangent. I'm teaching about ancient Egypt in my class right now. And I'm like, I could have sworn like Yu-Gi-Oh! There was like these Egyptian gods cards.
Oh yeah, the Egyptian god cards.
And they're like not even like anything remotely to do with the Egyptian gods, which is like the funny thing of it. It's like the winged dragon, which why is it called the winged dragon? The winged dragon of Ra, which is like, okay, Ra is a falcon. Mm-hmm. So like, why didn't they just do a falcon?
Obelisk the Tormentor.
Yeah, or the Destroyer or something.
Yeah.
And then like Slifer the Sky Dragon or something like that. So I'm like, I could have sworn these are like, and I was like looking them up, and I'm like, I swear they were in like the movie that came out in theaters that I went and saw. So like I found it online. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can just find this movie. And I'm sure it's like on Daily Motion or whatever that one website is that you can just find things on. And I watched like the first 15 minutes of it, and I'm like, this is pretty hilarious. They're like, oh, the tomb of Anubis. Why is he all shackled to his sarcophagus? And I'm like, this is, and you know, they're dueling and they're like, and I'm like, this is exactly what I remember being. So I'm like, I have to watch this with Emily because she really likes like Japanese culture and stuff and learning about it. And so I think we'll have like a Japanese themed date. And like, that'll be like one of the things we do is watch the Yu-Gi-Oh movie. So I can just get that dose of nostalgia.
I mean, back in high school and even into college a bit, there's a YouTube series called Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged that I was obsessed with. And it basically all it is they go through the show, and I think he's done the movie too, but he just redubs over it. And it's just like him making fun of like what they talk about and everything. It's very funny. Like the early episodes are pretty rough because it's like kind of early internet. So the recording's kind of rough, but I think he's still going because I don't think he's like finished everything yet. It's pretty funny. So if you like how hilarious Yu-Gi-Oh is.
Well, it's hilarious because they're like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yugi, he's the best card player in the world, but can anybody defeat his 3 Egyptian god cards? I'm like, well, he's the best because he just has the 3 best cards.
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of cheating.
They're like, don't you have any, you invented the game. Don't you have any cards that can defeat the 3 Egyptian god cards? Well, I suppose I do.
Seto
Kaiba. Well, you'll have to do them for me, yes? I'm like, it's the Toontown guy or whatever they called those cards, right?
A Toontown guy?
Wasn't there Toontown? Wasn't that like a type of cards?
Oh, yeah. That's
that
one
one guy
Pegasus has. Yeah.
Pegasus,
Millennium Pegasus or whatever.
Hold on. Are you a big Yu-Gi-Oh guy?
No, like I said, I watched this Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series, and so I know all of these characters like from that.
I'm like, I
have this big knowledge.
This was
Yu-Gi-Oh!
A big part of my life when I was like 7 and 8 years old. And I'm like, I did not remember anybody's name. And here you are, just like Pegasus, whatever, Kaiba.
Yeah, Seto Kaiba. Yeah, and you can't
I'll turn my 3 Blue Eyes Dragon into Ultra Mega Super Blue Eyes Dragon or whatever he's called.
You got Yugi, but you also have Yami Yugi, which is the Egyptian like spirit that lives within him.
What was that when he's like, Beast, listen to me.
His deep voice. He gets like a foot taller when he becomes Yami Yugi.
And he's like, hey, I can't see anything. Help me, guys.
Butters.
that was it. That was more like fair. What he calls Cartman? His like Cupid me. Or like,
oh yeah, Cupid me.
Cupid me, guys.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Here we go. You love everybody. I don't think I could do a Butters.
Butters is
Eric, no, I can't do a Butters.
Butters is difficult.
Yeah. Well, gee, Eric, that sure is cool of you guys. I don't know. I can't do it. I can do more of an Eric Cartman.
Yeah.
But I won't do his impersonation because most of it has excellent hips that I shouldn't say on the show. But I play a little bit more Spider-Man. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Still not done with it. So hopefully around this week and get it done.
Sure.
By Christmas it'll be done.
I mean, you got Thanksgiving break coming up.
Yeah.
So
but there will be a lot of family time there.
We'll review it soon.
By Christmas.
It'll happen at some point.
Yeah. 2023.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin. Didn't you say something about George R. R. Martin to me?
Yeah. Okay. So I saw an article
Because this episode hasn't been long enough. Might as well just throw on a little bit at the end here.
Just a random thing I saw. I saw something that he wrote, and I didn't click on the article, so I could be taking this quote out of context. But it said something like he wrote 1,100 pages of Winds of Winter last year.
How long is that freaking book? Oh my gosh. I'm like, that was last year. The guy said he put me in a jail cell if I wasn't done by like 2021 or something. Or no, like 2019?
Something like that. What's he doing out of jail?
When did George R. Martin say to put him in jail?
Good content for the podcast.
In in New Zealand. If for Worldcon. So that was 2019.
Oh my gosh. Well, good thing the Game of Thrones fan base has not gotten any smaller.
No, I was okay. So last year, George R. R. Martin said fans could imprison him if Winds of Winter wasn't done in summer 2020. Okay, there we go. Summer 2020.
All right.
So we wrote 1,100 pages last year. Did the guy just go like, oh no, none of this is good. Oh no, I got to start
maybe
from
he's
scratch.
rewriting a lot of it.
Oh no, season 8, nobody liked it. Oh no.
But anyway, I think that's
no, Daenerys got canceled. Gotta rewrite Daenerys Dynasty.
No one likes Daenerys. Did you have anything else?
I don't think so, Holden. I think that's about it for me this week.
So next week, I guess probably Napoleon?
Yeah. Let's do it. Which is a shorter movie than Hunger Games.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I just kind of assumed it was gonna be 3 hours. That's kind of a welcome. That's kind of a welcome.
Oh, it's a welcome 2 hours 30 or something.
Yeah, honestly.
But
yeah, we'll do that. So if you want to leave us a request, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Email us at tompodcast@gmail.com or donate to our Patreon. I believe that's it.
I'm trying to think of some Napoleon line to say.
I don't know.
I'm short, but not really. I'm average height for my time, or maybe even above average. Something like that.
I'm chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
All right. Until next time, adios, pantalones.
Love you.